Okay, it is 5:30, and I will note to the public, this meeting is being recorded, as you can see. And I would like to call the Concord Carlisle Regional School Committee to order.
And I'll call the Concord School Committee to order.
And we have to do this by roll call, so start us off, Alexa.
Anderson present.
Booth present.
Morano present.
Rainey present.
Rankin present.
Witt present.
Wilson present.
And we're back to Zoom tonight, so we all have to remember that we have to do all our roll call votes, etc. So here we go. We are not actually going to have a recognition tonight. As you know, we were supposed to be in Boston, but due to the weather, we are not in Boston tonight, so we're on Zoom. So we are going to save our recognitions to our in-person meeting in Boston. We have committed to doing a meeting in the fall, in the spring in Boston. So as soon as we can get that scheduled, we will certainly let people know. And then I would like to open up to public comment, and our public comment period is a period of no more than 20 minutes. We are only on Zoom this evening, so if you would like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand feature. Okay, I do not see anyone for public comment, so I'm going to close that up. And on to the reading of the minutes from January 24th. Did everyone have a chance to look at those? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thought they were good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you to Erin. And Erin, I should also say that Domingos and Aisha are not with us right now. They may be joining us. So if they do, we'll let you know if they jump in. So I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes from January 24th of 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. And we have to do a roll call vote.
I wonder if I could just question one thing, Tracy.
Yep.
If just help us out. On item 11, discussion about the where is it here? The circuit breaker. It reads 100,000 additional 100,000 in current year circuit breaker. Is that correct, or is that our first 100,000? I was confused. I remember recently we discussed taking 100,000 from circuit breaker for next year. Would this, so this would be an additional 100 from 22 or from 23? Bob, can you help me? I'm sorry, I'm not clear on it.
From this year and also for next year. In this case, I think you're referring to, I don't have the minutes, but up right now, but we're using an additional 100,000 in FY23.
Okay.
Is there a clarification of the minutes, Court?
And
No, it's not clarification of the minutes. It's just clarification for me that I
okay.
just want to make sure I understand them, because now we have, if I'm correct, $200,000 circuit breaker numbers on the table. One referenced in these minutes, and then another one with our current agenda. Am I sorry, current budget? Am I correct, Bob?
yes, again, next year we'll be using 100,000. Yep.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Tracy.
Okay. All right. So we'll go back to roll call vote. So all in favor. Let's start with Alexa. Go ahead.
Anderson, I for both.
Booth, aye for both.
Morano, I for both.
Rainey, I for both.
Rankin, I for both.
Witt, I for region.
Wilson, I for region.
Okay, great. Okay, Alexa, I'm going to let you start with the Concord public correspondence first. And then
Oh,
I'll
God.
I'm
Yep,
sorry.
Hold on. Nope.
Sorry, I've
It's
seen
just,
people line
again,
up.
for you guys that weren't here, my computer is broken. I have them organized on my email though. We did have we had some correspondence. I'm sorry, I'm doing it on my phone. Let me just get my act together.
Sorry, I'm pulling up mine too. So if I get to mine first, I'll get to you.
Okay, we had, let's think, our last meeting was when? February 14th? Was it Valentine's Day? It was.
We had a meeting. Yes, we did have a meeting on the 15th.
You're good. thought we had more correspondence than we did. At Concord, we had one piece of correspondence that was asking about one of our warrant articles, Article 19. Just wanted some further clarification. That was it.
Okay, and I'm just pulling up the regional correspondence. At the region, and I will not include, we did have correspondence today, but I'm not going to include that today because when I put this out, we had 3 pieces. One was a public records request. One was a local business with a product they wanted to sell to us, I guess would be the best way to say it. And the third was about a donation to CCHS of some benches. And that's all we had on the region. Okay. So then I will move on to chairs, liaisons, and superintendent's reports. So I know that I did not put this in the agenda overview, but if you are a liaison to a committee and you have anything to report out on, I think we just kind of round robin this and go through everyone's now that we have a little bit more of a gift of time tonight. So does anyone have anything?
Tracy, I can report financial audit has been postponed. Bob and I were to have a meeting this month, and I think that'll be March or April at this point.
Okay.
2025 committee moving along. Nothing, I believe, to report of note. Thank you.
Okay. Great. Let's see. I'll just call on everybody because it's so awkward on Zoom. Sorry. Carrie, did you have anything from any committees you liaison with?
Nope. I mean, we did strategic planning. It's just about wrapping up. It's been a great experience. I know we'll be doing a more comprehensive overview on a future meeting. So, but nothing to report on that.
Nothing. Okay. Sharon, did you have anything?
Just a reminder that the DEIB is going to have their strategic meeting tomorrow night. And also for Carlisle, we are having a meeting with the community regarding the Solar Story podcast.
All right, great. Let's see, Sarah.
So just to follow up, the details for the Solda Story literacy conversation are it's going to be tomorrow morning, accessible on Zoom or in person. I think it's at 9:30. Is that right?
Okay.
Sure, 9:30. But if anybody wants a link, let me know. And then I think that's really the big news from Carlisle. And as Sharon mentioned, and then for the CCAC, would it be possible to give a brief update? We have a board meeting on Friday. At the next meeting, would I be able to give a quick, like 2-minute update on any major developments? Because
Sure.
For now,
Yeah.
there was nothing that I know of. So
Okay. Let's see, Cynthia.
So I'll let you all do the FinCom stuff related to the schools. The hearing for the town is tomorrow night, I believe, and they're meeting tomorrow night. So it's not Thursday. I got a little thrown off by that. DI Commission is very focused on the article for the DI director or whatever, and they presented last night. Pretty good attendance. There's another showing of the movie. I think it's like March 12th. I'll send it on to you all. And they're also winding up their survey, the DI Commission.
Okay, great. Alexa.
One of the things that I just wanted to put on our radar, I should have maybe talked to Lori about this offline. CPAC is going to start to gear up for their 2 big events. Well, their one big event of the year, which is their appreciation awards. I think they've tried to set a date. I think I might have put it in my calendar. And it's going to be May 11th. And then in addition to that, they'll come to us also likely at one of our May dates with their end of year, like summary report. So we're working on, or they're going to work on finding what date will work best for them. I've given them our meeting schedule. So hopefully they'll look at that and propose like 2 potential times that will work for them to bring their report to us. And just, I want us from a like agenda setting perspective to remember that that's going to be a chunk of our time probably in May. I know last year they came in June, but May is, I think, the more preferable time.
Okay,
That's it.
great. And they have a speaker series happening right now.
They
And
have something like coming soon.
I think it's
just-
coming up on like, usually they do the IEP development and parental rights.
I have a
and-
parental rights
I
person
think they have the
coming. I just-
parental rights thing. coming,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And I have to say, I missed the CCTA diversity and hiring meeting as my father was ill. So Lori covered that, I think, for me, the last month. So we'll hopefully bring you an update as we have our next meeting. And I don't think I had anything else except for Alexa and I, we've mentioned that we've met with Verizon. The only thing new I have to report on Verizon in terms of the regional campus is that they made a site visit to just check out our campus and give us some recommendations. And we do not have anything from them as of yet. Correct, Lori and Bob? You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct. Bob actually covered that meeting with them.
Great.
And then I think the town has signed an agreement for a tower downtown. Is that true?
My understanding is that one of the churches may have,
Yes.
but that's not official yet.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
In the
And-
works.
And just, that is not enough coverage. The one at the church is not enough coverage to cover the high school campus.
Correct.
So we are proceeding on with that. When we have more information, we'll certainly bring it to you. And I think that that's all we had. It's been kind of a short month with vacation in there. I know that some of you were able to get away, some of you not, some of you worked the whole time. So thank you for all of you that have worked all during vacation.
Tracy,
And
can I just add one thing?
Yep, go
Sorry,
ahead.
I wasn't thinking, I wasn't prepared to do this, but I just wanted to note that we have a policy meeting next week. And that we will be reviewing the remainder of the I policies that we haven't gotten to, plus we've added a whole host of L policies as well. And then we'll be doing some general housekeeping items around unnecessary or outdated COVID policies. So I just want to give folks a heads up. I'll be sending Erin has already posted the agenda, and I'll be sending kind of an overview of what with more information, but just so it's on everyone's radar. It's next Monday at 10 a.m.
Okay,
6th?
next Monday. Yes, the 6th. Next week is kind of a busy week for us. So I'll send out an email, but as a reminder, we have a policy meeting, a DEIB meeting, and then there's also the hearing. So 3 things kind of just to keep on your radar for next week. And then I will pass it to Dr. Hunter if you have anything to update us on.
Yeah, thank you. I primarily want to just update you on the homeless shelter, which seems to be changing minute by minute almost. I heard from Desi literally at 3 o'clock this afternoon that it seems they may actually be about to place long-term stays as soon as March 13th when the hotel starts to intake families. That's different than the information we've been getting, which would only involve short-term stays of 3 to 5 days with little school impact. So that's substantial change. If that's the case, I expect there'll be another meeting scheduled later this week to try to confirm the plan. I think also worth noting, through the meetings we've had and Representative Cataldo, I connected with the superintendent in Salem. The dorms at Salem State, a dormitory there was turned into homeless housing in December. So they're a few months ahead of us, long-term housing, not the short-term stays. And it was just really interesting to hear some of the impact on them, transportation being the biggest, all McKinney-Vento School of Origin, essentially transportation impact, at least is how it would compare with us, to the tune of having now fronted over $400,000 alone since December. So they're working directly with Desi. They're working directly with the legislators. Steve had been on the phone with the lieutenant governor, all talking about how the governor's proposal can help to relieve some of this, because obviously that's an unbudgeted significant impact to them, to their budget. The second big impact to them in terms of transportation, which we will not have, thankfully, their vendor, because they outsource it, their vendor could not transport kids from the hotel. So they've had to put them on vans from the hotel to the schools. And that's been another very costly piece. So that will not be an issue for us, thankfully. Otherwise, it's about services and support to kids. They've had a mix of Massachusetts natives, obviously, if they're going to school of origin, and some immigrant families coming from Texas and Florida. And that is involving ELL and second language and some things that they're set up for. So we're trying to gather as much information and keep up with the information we're getting, which seems to not all stick sometimes. Sarah, I saw your hand.
I just have a question about the cost, the transportation cost estimate, the $500 per day per pupil. Is that a best case or worst? Like, are there efficiencies to be found if there are kids going to the same destination?
We can hope so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
there
Even
might be a little bit-
piggybacking rides, maybe, if they're, somebody's on the way to another stop, maybe. But yeah, that would be one student at a time. Worst case, hopefully.
Okay.
So good question. So there's a lot of moving pieces here, and obviously if March 13th is real, I mean, Desi called me, that feels like there's something going on there, that we're gonna, feel that coming maybe faster than we originally thought. So the only other thing, I'm gonna shout out the middle school. The musical's finally back after years of COVID reprieve, and they're Xanadu Jr. opens up on Friday and runs through the weekend, and please let us know if you'd like to attend.
Very exciting. I have a little piece of my heart in the middle school musical. Yes, Sarah, go ahead.
I just wanted to chime in that Carlisle also has a middle school musical coming up in March
good.
15th, 17th that weekend.
What show, Sarah?
It is, I keep wanting to call it flash dance, but it's not flash dance. It's Footloose. Footloose. That's right.
Same vintage. Oh, that's fun. That's great.
Question, if I might.
Yeah.
The question and comment. I learned at select board last night that the MOC group does not in fact have a contract with the DCHD. Is that what it is? DHCD. Even though it's been reported that that's all set and ready to go, apparently it's somewhere not quite ready. Laura, you referenced DESI. How does DHCD and DESI interface on all of this? Do we talk to DESI and Carrie talk to DHCD, or how does it work?
No, it's kind of circular at this point. I've had direct contact with DHCD. I've had direct contact with DESI. They're clearly talking to each other offline. That's probably one of the challenges we're having, honestly, is the flow.
So the state agencies are not in the same room with us at the same time?
They are, but they're also having meetings. Clearly today there was a meeting without us there that happened. I've been on maybe 3 calls now with both DESI, DHCD together. So, and we're hoping actually MOC is about to join us. We heard through one of the town employees that there's a point person about to be named next week. And that's for us, the school side. What we're really craving is a point person to work on processes and intake and communication.
Yeah. Are there any other districts who are in the same boat we are, encountering a new site? Thankfully, we have Salem to share their experience with us. Any others that are coming on with us?
Yeah, there are some other new ones. I know Westboro is about to take on one at the Old State Hospital. I haven't talked with Amber, but that was in my local newspaper. I know there's one out in the Berkshires coming online in the next few weeks because that superintendent asked me to share whatever we learned. I think there's a pretty good uptick of trying to get more shelters open because of the need. So I expect it'll grow.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you.
And Lori, can you just talk, just let everyone know about the $1,000 DESI grant and the deadline and kind of what we know about that at this point?
All right, so there's been $1,000 DESI grant available for communities encountering what we're encountering, the deadline is tomorrow. So in talking with Desi, it's sounding like we won't exactly be eligible for that because of the timing. They're quickly pivoting over to the governor's bigger ask here so that the real substantial money will come flowing soon. So when I talked to Salem, that 1,000 per child, he kind of laughed and, it was a gesture, not much impact. So the good news is this other proposal's actively being talked about, I think with as much efficiency as possible. And that message is consistent, that the proposals being talked on from the legislators and others fairly hopefully, from what I'm hearing. So more to come. It's sit and wait right now, which is challenging. And yet I think it's going to could be you sit and wait and then you're quickly getting swamped and trying to pull it together on a dime, which is what pretty much we were told could happen. So when I say pull it together on a dime, we have some pieces already ready to roll. So we know how to start doing that, but then it's a matter of what children come and what they need.
So we're ready for anything, pretty much.
Pretty much right now. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Anybody else have anything or any questions, comments for Dr. Hunter? Okay. All right, we'll move on to our discussion, which we're going to start out with the superintendent evaluation that Alexa and Sarah will be running. So I'm going to turn it over to Alexa to kind of bring us through that.
Sure. So I sent you all this year's rubric. The rubric is designed to keep us focused, I guess, on the areas in which we will evaluate the superintendent. So what you have in front of you are the what are called focus indicators, again, that keep us focused on the areas that we will be essentially evaluating Dr. Hunter on this year. Probably as early as tomorrow, I will get you the actual form that we fill out. This is not the form. This is just to kind of get you guys familiar with how the superintendent's evaluation will kind of go. And then what I wanted to discuss with all of you guys was whether or not, because we have 3 of our members have never done an evaluation before. I've only done one. And I was thinking that it could be wise for our own development to see if there was interest in getting not in our regular business meeting, but something scheduled apart from that, potentially with Dorothy Presser, our MASC aide, to walk us through how we do an evaluation, because it's a lot to sift through, and their rubric and their methodology is very prescriptive. So I just wanted to throw that out there, and I guess you can email me offline if that's something you'd be interested in, and then hopefully that's something we could just schedule quickly with Dorothy and probably do it via Zoom, I would think. Does that make sense? And I didn't get any questions from anybody yet, so
I sent you one, but I sent it this afternoon.
Yeah.
So
oh yeah, you did.
I would be
So,
very.
so that is not the form, Carrie. That's just sort of the overview. So you'll get the form that you fill out that will have a combination of ratings.
Yeah.
You rate you can choose one of 4 ratings for the superintendent that range from unsatisfactory to exemplary. And then in addition, on each focus indicator, which is an area that we will evaluate the superintendent on, you do have the ability to provide sort of context and whatnot, more of a narrative piece. So it is, what I like about this this form is that it provides us with the ability to have very quantifiable metrics, which you do via the 4 ratings, as well as some sort of qualitative ways to enhance and sort of give context to your rating. That makes sense.
Yeah, I for one would I'd be happy to participate in a Dorothy Presser conversation about
Yeah.
that. I think it'd be really helpful.
Great.
You asked for email, but I'll follow Carrie if I might. I'm happy to participate. I've seen the old DESI form, the new DESI form, the DESI form modified, the skip a year. So I think, as you say, getting on the same page, once
Yeah.
again, can't harm us, probably be very valuable. It's one of our few critical responsibilities.
Yeah,
and
I would be
I
interested too, so I think you should just go ahead and schedule something with Dorothy. Because
great.
you have at least 3 of us.
Okay, I will get, so and then the other thing is too, so we're gonna have approximately, I'm gonna get the forms themselves out to you by the end of this week. So that we can at least start to review the process. So I would like to try to get Dorothy, I know next week is like an incredibly busy week for us, but potentially, the week after, because we are going to have these due. I will give you that date right now. We will have these due on Friday, March 7th. Oh, sorry, geez. Friday, April 7th will be your due date. And then we would like to present them in public the week of we'll present them at our April 25th meeting. So that way Sarah and I will have a full week where we're not on like a school vacation time and then a school vacation time to do the analysis and aggregation of everybody's evaluations. I hope that schedule works for everybody. That gives you a full month really to do the evaluation.
And Alexa, is it going to look like the last one where, and I have not done one of these before, where it's you do the numbers and you also put the narrative and you have comments in there, and then you and Sarah will put all that together? Is that kind of the plan?
Yeah, so what we do is we take an app, so like we assign a number value to each rating. So you'd get a 1 for an unsatisfactory rating up to a 4 for an exemplary rating. So there's 4 options you have. So for each indicator, we would take everybody's rating and average those out for an overall rating. So, everyone's rating, let's say we gave, 3 or we gave 7 proficients. You'd take value of number 3, the third highest rating, add them all up, divide them by our number, you'll get an aggregate overall rating by the whole committee. Then what Sarah and I will work on is taking everybody's narrative pieces and constructing an overall narrative that sort of highlights different perspectives of the individuals into one document. That document will be discussed in public. And then we'll do that in the April 25th meeting.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions about the super evaluation? Okay, thank you for that. I welcome Aisha, who joined us. So Erin, for the minutes, Aisha's with us. And we will move on to our spring forum. So Alexa and I are going to kind of talk about the spring forum a little bit. I sent everyone an email last week. We made a commitment in our goals to host a school committee forum. We've had them in the past. And Sarah has suggested mental health. And so we kind of have a little bit of a plan moving forward. And this is just really to have a discussion about if this is the topic that we think we want to have the forum of. So I will, again, ask Alexa to just chime in on this in reference to our goals document, youth risk behavior survey, et cetera.
Yeah, so I appreciated very much Sarah's suggestion. I think it is totally on point with the objectives of what a forum is designed to do. When I look at the MASC guidance, a forum, you host forums because you identify in a year sort of a topic that feels particularly acute. Doesn't have to be that, but I think that's a good way to view it. I think Sarah nailed it with what feels particularly acute for our students right now is their mental health and well-being. I thought it was also particularly a smart forum because when we put together collectively the 7 of us or 9 of us at the beginning of our school year, we put together a goals document that really was very specific about data that we wanted to intake from our administrative team about, this was, I'm specifically thinking about our student-centric goals, and a lot of the data that we were seeking to learn about had to do with mental health. So I think this would be another great vehicle to do that. So yeah, I think it does 3 things really. It nails kind of what a topic that feels really acute. It accomplishes some of our goals, and to remind everybody that a forum is a way for us to have a dialogue back and forth with the public, and for the public really to come prepared with some questions and hear from our administrative team as to what we're doing. And Lori, in that forum, if we pursue this, I would see you there, right? I would see Kristen and
absolutely. I see
maybe Deb
Kristen.
Dixon too.
Sure. Yeah, and
Okay,
some
I
of it
don't
would
know.
depend on how you want to focus it. I mean, certainly
Yeah.
all of us being there makes sense. In terms of what data and information we share, we'd need a little more feedback probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Anyone else have any thoughts?
So my only other thought with, we had talked about seeing the youth risk behavior survey information anyway during a meeting. So this would pull that kind of into a forum, which we would probably have more people in attendance of that, so that the community really is aware of what our results are. And we're being super transparent about that. We've seen it a little bit through our budget process. We have the information available to us, but I do think that it would be great to get kind of a quasi presentation about it, but then also have some type of mental health aspect to the forum. And we can think through kind of how we want to do that. But I just would like to hear from everyone else if they think that this is a topic you'd like to pursue, or if you think that there's another topic that seems to be more pressing.
So my comment is, I think it's critical that we as a committee review the survey data before we have a forum. So we can have the community digest it, hear us talk about it, right? And then have a forum where we can then have the conversation. Because I think that sort of, a forum to me says we don't really deliberate. We're just all kind of having some topic, and it's much more of a community, involvement and comment, and it's a discussion, I hope, in person. Right?
Oh, yeah, I think we're looking for, I would love an in-person forum, because I think that the only forums we've had have really been on Zoom. So, pre-COVID, they were in person. So we would hope to really have them in person.
Because I like to view, because it's been talked about as part of our budget, I'd like to have that kind of discussion about the survey, look at it from many different aspects about the budget impact going forward, how things have changed regarding our budget, staffing, all those kinds of things, which might not, to me, be the thing that people are looking for at a forum, right? That's just I think to me, it would be student and staff centric focused about where we are with mental health. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, maybe I could jump in with a suggestion. The results from the last probably 20 years of the youth risk behavior survey, it's given every other year, are on our website, the school's website under the teaching and learning. And so we just put on top the most recent one, which was last spring, 2022. It's given in 6th, 8th, and then 9 through 12. And so you can see the progression. And if within the results from the last one, you can see how it's changed since, I think they put 10 years of data in there. So from 2012. So a lot of things have gone down, risky behaviors, some things have gone up because of the pandemic. So that feels like something you could do pretty soon, Cynthia, if you guys were interested in that, because the data's all there. And then I think the public probably would have questions about how we address the issues that are coming up in the survey. And so, I would be happy. We're working on it literally right now. It's called, just like we've presented in reading and math, a multi-tiered system of support. So tier 1 is what all students get. Tier 2 is what kids who have a little more intense need, and then tier 3 is the most intense need. And we're sort of happy to outline what's happening at all of those levels within our schools and what's available to families. So, and how we figure out who needs that sort of support. So we're happy to present on that whenever. Each school has their own picture of the tiers of support depending on the level of the students.
Great, thank you. So we can get that scheduled for one of our meetings and then we'll work on planning a forum. Yes, Court.
Yeah, I'm certainly in favor of a forum. I think if nothing else, it makes mental health more discussable. And I think we're in an era where we need to make it more discussable. I remember vividly the first youth risk behavior survey when not only the district, but the entire town really didn't know how to handle it. We'd never seen one of these things before. And agencies were temporarily stumped. To make a very long story very short, the response way back then, I think it might have been 1996 when we first did a survey, was to bring the youth serving agencies together to work together to create community forums for these conversations, with the notion that no family and no agency should be dealing with these challenges in any singular way. It's got to be a unified approach. I'm not advocating a particular model for the forum, but rather to say maybe we don't want to take this on alone, because there are other youth serving agencies that are critical in this arena. So maybe we need a real planning session so we have more time to take a look at what a forum could look like. It could be a single event. It doesn't necessarily have to be.
Lori. Oh,
No,
okay.
Sarah's waiting.
Okay,
Well,
Sarah.
No, if you have something to say to that, Laura.
Yeah, just real quick, and it's such in the infancy, I haven't really mentioned it. I was at a meeting yesterday being led by the Board of Health and the new health director, Melanie Deneen, and she's gathering, I think, somewhat of what Court is suggesting. I was there, the police were there, Bonnie Wilbur was there as a service provider, all the town departments really around the table talking on mental health. So I think there's some growing direction back to what you just described, which I'm really excited about. So just thought I should mention it while we're saying.
So given what you say, Lori, I'll share with you one other bit, and that was the schools put out a request for Concord, Carlisle youth serving agencies to come together to talk about how to move forward on the basis of the survey. Emerson Hospital hosted it, and honestly, to the shock of everybody involved, over 70 people showed up. It was hard to keep count of the agencies. There are a lot of resources. Doesn't mean we don't have a lot of problems, but there are a lot of resources, to your point. So I'm delighted that things are moving as you suggest. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Right. Sarah?
I was just going to say about from people from the school, because I'm sure that there are very different concerns sort of at the elementary, at the middle, at the high school. To what extent do we want to, I don't know, maybe bring in guidance or mental health providers from each of the schools, somebody to represent the different age brackets to sort of speak to this particular issues, or at least be able to relate a little. I mean, not, I'm sure that Deb and Kristen are well aware, but it's sometimes nice also to have somebody who's more on a day-to-day interface with the students to speak to those kinds of challenges.
Yeah. And we did that. I lead the pre-K to age 22 mental health team, and we did that with an article that was never actually published. But during COVID, they asked us, so we did interviews with elementary, middle, and high school counselors about what they were seeing. And I think it was really interesting to see the through lines, as you suggest, how it's different and how it's the same. So I'm happy to organize that.
Right. So maybe we'll start the organizing process and, just keep this on our agenda at every meeting and kind of just get some feedback from the committee. And if you certainly have any thoughts outside of this meeting, you can send your email to me or to Alexa. If you have any thoughts as to something else you'd like to see or agencies involved or whatever, we're certainly open to all of that. Anybody else on this? All right, so it looks like we have
Carrie.
Carrie, sorry, Carrie.
Sorry, I just want to echo my support for it. I think it's a really great idea. We're in a mental health crisis. And I think one of the things I've been thinking a lot about is that families and communities are looking to schools in ways that they haven't to really address these problems. And so this really is not a new problem, but a new problem to schools. So I think having an open and honest conversation within our community would be really valuable. So I love the idea.
Great.
Thanks, Sarah. Good one.
All right. Oh, sorry. Did I interrupt someone? I'm really not
No.
used to Zoom again. I'm trying to scan like the whole screen. I'm like,
Good.
okay. All right. Well, thank you all. So more to come on that, and we're open to any type of feedback that you have on that for us. And we will definitely be meeting with Dr. Hunter and her team on, kind of some of their thoughts as to how we can have this forum. So thank you for that. All right. And now on to our school committee coffee schedule. So we had our fall coffees, as you know, we had one in Boston, one in Carlisle, and we had two in Concord. I have to say, one of them at night, no one showed up for, and I was really depressed about that, but it's
I was
okay.
there.
Yes, you were there, Carrie. So thank you. We had a lovely chat. So we're really hoping to pump our social media and get people at our spring coffees. But I think, the spring is kind of a time that people are ready to kind of get out there. So maybe we'll have better luck in the spring. So I think that Carrie, Aisha, and Sarah have worked on that. So do you guys want to just kind of talk about your plan? I sent everybody the email today, just late this afternoon as to their plan, but I'll just turn it over to you three if you want to just give us a brief overview.
So I talked to Carrie today. I thought that if we move the coffee, instead of having it at the Hyde Park Library, move it to Dorchester, a more central location, maybe we can get some more Boston parents to come.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Panera, that one's at Panera?
Yes.
Yeah, I think what we're looking at is we connected, Sarah, Aisha, and I connected a couple weeks ago. We're trying to do 2 Concord, one in Main Concord, one in West Concord, one in Carlisle, and then one in Boston. We've proposed a date and a time and a location for each. So we're looking at, for Boston, Aisha is proposing a Saturday morning. I think she really wants to make this as convenient as possible for families because there hasn't been a great turnout in past coffees. So really hoping to make it as available as possible. So we're looking at 10 a.m. on March 25th at Panera in Dorchester at the South Bay Center. In Carlisle, we're looking at Wednesday, March 29th at 6 o'clock at the library. In West Concord, it's Tuesday, March 21st at 10 a.m. at Fowler. And then Concord Center, we're looking at Wednesday, April 5th at 6 p.m. at the main library. So in this document that was circulated, I think it probably makes the most sense I don't know, Sarah and Aisha, we didn't really talk about this, but just to have people fill their names in where they might be able to attend. And if there are any holes, we can either move the date or change it or fix it based on what folks' availability is. But that's what we're looking at right now. Anything, did I miss anything, Sarah?
Are you looking for like 2 to 3 people at each location? Is that kind of?
Yep, 2 to 3 people. But obviously we can't have more than 1 Carlisle person or 2 Concord members.
Carrie, do you
Okay.
want to send me the dates and I'll just vet them against the master calendars just to make sure there's no major conflict?
That is a terrific idea. I'll do that right now.
It's probably fine when I give it a first glance, but let's double check.
Tracy, are those in your email to us, those dates?
Yes, so I sent an email this afternoon that has, there were 2 items in there and that was one. And then the only other thing, I did send an email over the break about, we don't have a budget for these coffees. So I certainly appreciate if anyone wants to contribute coffee or snacks or things like that. It feels awkward that we're hosting a coffee and I think about like the Panera one, like, well, let's host a coffee and everybody buy your own coffee. Are we really hosting a coffee? I don't know. I feel
We're
awkward.
hosting a coffee at a library where you're not allowed to have coffee.
Well, exactly. Well, I know. Can we have coffee at the library? We actually can't, right? We can't bring food or
I don't think
coffee.
you're supposed to have food or drink.
Okay,
No,
so
we-
that's actually
It's like
free.
you do
a
it-
gathering. It's a
Do it in
gathering.
that little cafe area. You
Yeah,
can
we
Yeah,
can
you
get,
can.
we can
You can
get
do it there.
permission.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we
'Cause
can
we're
learn.
doing- Oh, sorry. In Carlisle, it'll be in a room where you're allowed to have
Coffee.
snacks or anything. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I certainly appreciate everybody's willingness to either bring something or contribute and more to come on that. And same with when we go back to Boston and do have our social, you know, we're offering a pizza party, but again, we don't have money in our budget for that. So we're just gonna get it done. And then Aisha, what I was gonna talk to you too about our high school helpers, like if you think that was helpful, because I know Miles helped at our last coffee because he was with you, and I can certainly, you know, bring 1 or more of my kids to help with childcare, but we probably should message that out that, you know, if you bring kids, maybe we'll have childcare available or whatever.
Okay.
That's helpful.
Tracy, what are the next steps what do you need us to do next? Do you want us to control the marketing, like the promotion of this, or
So
are you
I would
take it
love
from
it if
here?
you could, you know, are you any of you familiar with Canva? Can you make a little
Yeah.
Canva so we can post it on social media? That would
Yeah,
be
I
great.
can do that.
And I
Sarah
think-
or Aisha is dying to do it.
I'm not.
I love a
Love
little
the
Canva.
honesty.
So if you can't do it, just let me know and I can certainly help you out with that. But if we could have a social media posting and maybe if you can just put a blurb together that Lori can push out through her district bulletin to make sure it really gets out there. And we did do that last time too. You know, we went through the district bulletin, we went through the PTG pages. I think we should really try and we could then bring it to the PTG president's meeting and the PA meeting so that they can push it out on their socials. I think that would be really helpful. Alexa, yes.
So I sit on the building committee communications subcommittee. And one of the things I know that we do is we identified like all of the PTG weekly newsletters as a way to push things out, as well as different groups in town. We go to the Council on Aging, we send out just like a blurb, the like Concord Business Partnership. I don't remember off the top of my head the different the League of Women Voters. Anyway, so and that's another way to kind of push things out, and then we rely on them obviously to push out to their individual members, but that has been a particularly effective means of getting the word out to as large of a group as possible.
And would the building committee be willing to share those emails with the school committee so we could send to that group?
That's fine, Lori, but I don't know, I double check. It's not, I mean,
Well,
it's the it's the head of each sort of group.
Okay, and is Sarah and Sharon, if there are any other groups in Carlisle that you can think of to push this out to, if we can maybe aggregate all of that together and then we'll have our own list for when we do this again in the fall, I think that would be helpful.
They're all publicly available email
Yeah.
addresses. So, yeah.
Okay.
We may want to share that with Mr. Lucy as well, our own internal PR person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know that Sarah Hart is also on, and so I'm sure that she'll put us in the mosquito. That's our little plug for the mosquito, and maybe we can get in the bridge too. So.
Yeah, we have a
um,
new school focused reporter at the bridge that has been in touch with me twice already in 2 days that she started.
Right.
So I think she might be very interested.
Okay, so Carrie, Sarah, and Aisha, you guys are good. You're gonna make me a graphic and maybe put a blurb together that we can push out, and we'll get an email distribution list going. Okay. All right, thank you very much. And that, anything else in the coffees? No, so Carrie, you want us to just sign up on that document? Can we add our names to that or email you, or how do you want us to do that?
Just sign up in the document. I think that might be the easiest because then you can see where other people have.
Okay,
I think
Right.
it also, if we have like an addition, if we do 3, then one person has to cancel. There's like 2 people who would be there. That would be good.
okay, great.
Harry, in the past, we've sometimes had more than 2, but whoever is not participating just sits in the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fine. Yeah. I just think just make sure that we have 2 people who are going to be there.
And just to clarify, you can have 2 Carlisle people and 1 Concord and even, yeah.
Okay, we can have 2 Concord. Can we have 2 Carlisle?
You can have 2 Carlisle. 'cause
Oh,
we're
you
not
can?
a
Okay, so
quorum.
I need
We're not
to,
a
I'm
quorum
sorry,
of
that's my
anything.
mistake.
Yeah.
So
I
we
just
can
wanted-
have 2 Carlisle and 2 Concord members at any given time. We can't
No,
have.
two
No,
Concord.
No, we can have 2 Carlisle and 1 Concord, or 2 Concord and 1 Carlisle.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, 3, right.
But not 4. Yes.
yes. And if we have 3 Concord, then somebody has to just sit on their hands and not say anything, just listen, which is really hard to do.
Worst.
But we can do it. We can do it. All right. Thank you so much for doing that. That is huge. So thank you guys. And then we will move on to our CCHS Dean of Students. You have in front of you, probably it's attached to the agenda right now, the job description. So I will turn this over to Lori to just give us her rationale for this and how we think we're going to pay for this and all sorts of information.
Yeah, thanks. So I think a number of factors led to the recommendation that we go forward with a dean of students at the high school. So I'll just talk on them, and I think you'll hear how they all came together. In some of this, sometimes I don't want to say crisis because it hasn't been a crisis during Mike Mastrio's absence, but change brings opportunity. And so in putting in the dean of students temporarily for the later part of this year, we've started to see the benefit of having someone dedicated to student-facing issues as their primary focus. And not only on a day-to-day level when issues come up in a negative way with discipline or needs to intervene in that regard, but on a much more proactive way. And we've started to see the benefit of that. As you said, our kids are really in crisis, and we want to get, so we're proactive in intervening and not just reactive. And we're really seeing that having someone very student-centered without all the other administrative pieces attached to the position, the benefits of that. The draft job description that we gave to you, Brian and Katie worked out to share what their vision of the position is. We've certainly included Mike, and he's aware. I think some really important words are in this position because they align with the strategic planning work and the goals that we've set. And so just a couple of highlights of those, that this person can take lead on some of the MTSS work, especially the SEL pieces that Kristen's just mentioned. This person can take lead on restorative justice, which is a major focus for us over the next probably 3 to 5 years. This person can take lead on some of the supervisory pieces where we have more likelihood of problematic situations, so we can set them up to be less likely to be problems, whether it's lunch, dismissal, some of those spots. This person can also liaise with kids in need and families in need, with guidance, administrators, teachers, and help to keep all those spokes connected, which I think we've seen over in multiple models, that a comprehensive approach is what's going to work, whether it's ninth grade academy or one of our intensive programs where everyone's at the table talking about the needs of a child. So in getting closer to the high school administration, because Mike has been out, and by that, I mean, just, supporting Katie and Brian, essentially, it really was eye-opening to see the demands in the office on a day-to-day level while they're trying to do the big picture work and support a large staff and a student body of 1,300. One night I was driving home after checking in with them on some things, and it dawned on me suddenly that their leadership structure is exactly the same as the middle schools for twice as many kids. And that's where I got stuck. That was a couple of months ago, and haven't been able to shake the idea of how this position is just required. Given the time and days we're in with kids, given the really robust efforts we're making on a number of initiatives and objectives that about, without this additional position, it's going to be really, really hard to do that. I think too, what is telling is that if we could get to where we're segregating off the student needs at this level of intensity, it'll free the other administrators to do the big picture work at a much deeper level. They're doing it really effectively, whether it was Mike or the two co-principals. They're doing it, but it's continuously interrupted. It's continuously sent to the side for a few minutes. It feels disjointed when you're trying to do it on a day-to-day basis. That's part of the job. We understand that. What we learned when we put the dean of students in is that a little bit of a front line for the student needs allowed that to flow a little more smoothly and a little more easily. In terms of, I know you're probably wondering how Mike fits into all of this. I think this position is needed regardless of Mike's next choices of returning. So, and Mike and I are in conversation, so expect to have some updates to you on that later as the spring begins. But I don't think we can go without it, with Mike there or without Mike there. I think it's a 4-person office. The special ed administrator, we've learned, really is a team chair, really is troubleshooting SPED. Yes, working on student issues, but at a SPED level, they're administrative, they're procedural, legal. This is really student facing and direct service to students, this dean of students. In terms of finances, the reason I'm bringing it to you now is that a few things have played out in the last month or so. We've confirmed a few retirements. Either we knew about them or we may not have been sure about them. And in terms of budget impact, depends on the position as to how much we budgeted for them. Simultaneous with confirming those, we've also been able to post a couple of them and see what the applicant pool is like. And to our surprise, pleasantly, some of the pools are deeper than we might have thought, where we might have been carrying a high salary for a possible retirement, but we actually can see we might have some really strong candidates that won't be top of the scale, high step. I think the third leg to that triangle is that the kids have started to sign up for courses. So that's a really big, important piece of information for us that unfortunately doesn't fall within the budget process. It falls after, and we start to see how teachers' time is actually going to be allocated. So I think that gives us some options there to look at as well. At the bottom line, if we can't reallocate from the retirements and personnel savings and class sections and sizes, we're going to give something else up to do this. It's that important that we need to reallocate to make it happen. The proposal is that this would not be a 12-month position. It can be a school year based position, 5 days before and after the year, and another 5 floating potentially for a summer meeting or whatever. So 200 days is what we're proposing. And I think overall that's what we're proposing and hoping to go forward with, and we wanted to be sure to get it in front of all of you.
Okay, do we have any questions or comments on the CCHS Dean of Students? Court.
Well, I haven't had time to digest this, so this is just first reaction. The responsibilities strike me as extraordinarily wide and broad. And I worry about whether anybody could perform at a very high level, given the breadth of these responsibilities, all the way from mentoring and counseling to coordinating lunch blocks to, just it's such a broad range. I really think we ought to pause, or I would urge the superintendent to pause and look at maybe a tighter focus. I personally would like to understand how this role, quite significant, would impact current roles, because I think to move somebody into all of these spaces is to impact everybody who's already active in these spaces: counselors, psychologists, schedulers, assistant principals, principal, if and when he returns, everybody. I think it's going to have a significant impact. So I guess my only specific question for tonight is, for Dr. Hunter, if this is a move she's going to make immediately, is this a cost center change request for the school committee or not? Is that the technical place where we would have a function here tonight?
We'd have to specifically identify where the monies are coming from and then bring that to you. So we can certainly do that. And if it falls in the response of, within the category of a cost center change, we would certainly bring that to you. So we're working on that. I think just to respond a little bit to what you said, I think, again, this is an oversight position in many cases. While it's student facing, this is really meant to be the spoke to many of the things that are here, not necessarily that they're hands-on doing each piece. And I guess the other part is somebody's doing all of this now. It's splintered throughout, highly splintered through the 3 current administrators, but within other places too. And I think we see a spoke as an incredibly important next step.
Carrie. You're muted.
Sorry, I'm muted. I just had a question on the reporting structure. It says reports directly to the principal and the superintendent. And I guess I'm curious, because if the person reports to you, would that, I'm also trying to figure out
It's the
what our role
principal,
is.
Carrie. Yeah,
Okay,
they're going to
okay.
report directly to the principal. I think
Okay,
we'll clarify that before we post it in the draft. I think that was overflow from, I guess technically everybody reports to me to some extent. Direct report will
Sure.
be to the principal. Yeah.
okay. And then with that, I don't think, like, we wouldn't have any oversight into this hiring. Like, this is simply just like an FYI that this is something that you're trying to do. Court, I'm just trying to understand our role in it, if there is one.
We certainly wanted to not do anything without talking with you about it. I think that was the first goal. The second, certainly if there's fiscal oversight you need to have, we'll let you know that.
Okay, great. Thanks.
I think I saw Sarah. Did you have something?
Well, I mean,
Dog's barking now.
no, I had similar questions. I mean, it'd be nice just to know going forward, I think, sort of what the silos are that everybody, where everybody stands, because it's a lot of job responsibilities, but if it's working in tandem with some people here I don't know if it shifts any of the job responsibilities of the current, structure. I guess that's my question.
Sure.
Okay.
I would offer up, Sarah, from a structural perspective, I would hope it does. I mean, that's the purpose, is to
Of course.
augment and strengthen, and maybe to lapse into the jargon, create some lateral coordination that is absent right now or lacking. Maybe that's what you're saying, Dr. Hunter.
Yeah, I think that's well said.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. Like, where is it that this person is in charge, and where is it that they are supporting
Sure.
whoever's already in charge of
Yeah.
one of those things? Because there, yeah, to Court's point, there are a lot of it's a lot of responsibilities. Yeah.
We want to be sure everybody is set up to succeed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I have a computer that apparently dings when I get texts, and I have a very large family. So I just apologize if you hear dinging. My thoughts on this are, I think the job of any administrator is it's a very broad job. So when I look at the job description, I look at it through that lens. Anyone who has been a public school administrator probably understands that the job is endless. So I really would, sorry, this again is my family dinging at me.
You don't hear it.
Okay, you don't hear it?
No,
Okay,
yeah.
sorry. So it's just annoying to me. So I guess from my perspective, I look at it as, what struck me again, when Lori said you look at the 700 students at the middle school, 1,300 at the high school with the same number of administrators. And, we did put in assistant principals at the elementary schools. We didn't have those a few years ago, and it was a stipend job. Then it's become more of a job. Now we're adding team chairs. So I do think that, the job has become more challenging, and whether it's pandemic related, mental health related, academically related, there are just so many facets to the job that it makes it almost impossible job for administrators. So if this would help the school run more efficiently, and to have, different buckets for, different administrators to be in, rather than everybody's all hands on deck all the time. And if this would allow for that job to kind of, flow a little bit. And I look at, we're going to have a new schedule next year with flex blocks, and the supervision of where kids are going to be during their flex blocks at the high school, that's going to require additional support. So to me, I look at this as, a necessary move for CCHS, just given the sheer number of kids, a number of moving pieces. I do think that an additional person is needed, just when you compare CMS to CCHS, it's just, to me, it feels really clear. So I just wanted to give you my perspective on that.
Yeah. Tracy, and I think, if I'm hearing Court correctly, I think Court and I agree that, what we're saying is in for the sake of efficiencies and for the sake of clarity, it would just be helpful to have clearer lines on where everybody falls, right? I don't think there's, I don't have a doubt that there is work to be shared, right? That an extra body, that there's something that someone could take over that would help. But for the person coming in, to make sure that they have their expectations clear, and for the people who are already there, if you're used to doing something and suddenly there's an expectation that somebody else is taking care of that also gets confusing. So it should find the efficiencies in this new role. Does that make sense?
That's kind of where I was coming from, that to ensure the success of a new position like this, if it comes on, everybody who's working critical roles now, I think, is going to naturally ask themselves, what does the dean mean to me? How's the dean make me more successful, and what do I need to do in return, and how does it change my current responsibilities? One question I had about qualifications was it intentional not to call out any formal teaching credentials or counseling credentials for the job? It looks like we've got 2 years of relevant experience as the necessary qualifications.
There's licensure in there too. The principal.
And teaching experience is required at the secondary level. It's right under the last bulleted item.
All right. So,
And we're requiring a certification in principal or assistant principal, which is the same license, and a master's degree or higher.
okay, I got master's degree on my copy. Okay. Thank you. All right, I see two pieces then. One, bachelor's degree, and then down below, job requirements, sort of a repeat. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay, so we can clarify that.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, so Lori, do you have a timeline for when you think that this,
It's pretty high hiring season for administrators right now, so we may go out pretty quickly to see what pool we can draw. And then we'll keep you posted from there.
okay, and is there any further clarification from school committee members that you would need at this point?
Given the importance of the position, I would hope the school committee stays somewhat current on how this thing evolves.
Great. All right, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I'm just grabbing my agenda. I'm back to paper and Zoom. It's really challenging for me right now. All right, so thank you for that. And it looks like we're down to action items. So we have one vote as an action item. And if anyone has that pulled up, this is another staff enrollment request. You have that language within the agenda. Does anyone have that up in front of them?
I can in a moment, I imagine.
I have it, but I can't make the motion.
I have it.
I can't either.
I move that the Concord and Concord Carlisle School Committees vote to approve the following staff request to enroll her children in Concord Public Schools, Concord Carlisle Regional School District for the 2023-2024 school year, and that the tuition be waived. It's an administrator with 2 children to enroll in kindergarten at Alcott.
Second,
Okay, any discussion?
yeah, do we have any anticipated offsets with graduates next year? What's this do to our bottom line for this center? Do we know yet?
In terms of staff.
Correct.
Children.
Yeah.
I'd have to find out. I don't have that. I know the total's around 100 kids, but we'd have to get you the breakout. I think
Thank
it's in the last enrollment report we shared. We do break out the staff enrollments. I'd have to double check to what level of detail.
Yeah, I was just curious if we had people ready to graduate or whether this is going to be a net increase. Not critical, certainly. It's not going to get in the way of our work tonight.
And excuse me, is this a teacher?
Administrator, the administrators have in their individual contracts, longstanding
Okay.
for me, they have a clause that allows them to enroll their children.
Okay. All right, and we will take a roll call vote.
Anderson, I for both.
Booth, aye for both.
Morano, I for both.
Rainey, I for both.
Rankin, I for both.
What I for region?
Wilson, I for region.
Hey, thank you very much. And at this point, I'm going to adjourn the Concord Carlisle School Committee. And we are on Zoom. I think I can just say I'm adjourning the Concord Carlisle School Committee, and I'm going to turn it over to Alexa to chair the Concord Public School remainder of the meeting.
Okay, great. So we have 2 items on our CMS or Fire Girls CPS agenda. The first, I just wanted to quickly provide everybody an update, or really for the public, an update on a couple things with respect to the middle school. We have not had a middle school building committee meeting since our last CPS meeting. We will meet this Thursday. I think that is important. And then just a reminder for everyone on this committee and in the public, our bids will come in the week of April 21st. Is that correct, Lori?
Actually,
For
April
the
21st
project
is the day.
is the day. Okay, just
The
the
day.
day. And then that gives us a quick 9-day turnaround before town meeting, which is on the April 30th date, which is a Sunday. So those are the three big dates that we have coming up. I don't remember, Court, if you or I have given an update with respect to what we've done on the building committee, but I think the most worthy of note is that our building committee did create what's called an alternative deduct list, which identified 5 pieces of the project scope that, should the bids on the 21st come in excess of, I forget what the exact number is, an 80 million-ish number of construction, that would essentially, we voted on this list, would trigger deductions to the project scope that would hopefully keep us in the budget. I don't remember the precise order of them. Do you, Court?
No, I could pull them up, but Alexa has it right. I think the number actually is now 87 million for construction. And the idea behind the alternate deduction list is the committee looked at items that could reasonably be pulled out of the project that wouldn't have dire consequences for kids or teachers, such that with the current budget in hand, the project could move forward and not come to a crashing halt. With the idea that we're cutting it close, we think we're going to make it, but if we don't want to sacrifice everything good. If we can take a few alt deducts out and still be more than satisfied.
Yeah, I think even more specifically, they are pieces of the project that are sort of standalone, if you will. You can't exactly, there are aspects of the project that start, a domino effect falling, so that, because they're so intertwined. So these are kinds of pieces that, to Court's point, are kind of standalone pieces that could be removed. So that's sort of where we are. And like I said, our next meeting is this coming Thursday, and we will continue to keep you all informed. Anyone have any other questions?
I think the right term is guardedly optimistic.
Perfect.
Is that another 7:30 a.m. meeting? And is it Zoom?
Always,
Always.
Tracy.
Okay,
That's our
sorry.
favorite time.
Silly of me to ask,
Yeah.
but 7:30 is
Mm.
okay. Thank you.
All right. And then our next item is our budget. So unlike our friends at the region, we still have a delta between what the Concord Finance Committee is recommending for a budget increase. They're recommending or advocating, I don't know precisely what I'd call it, but they're recommending that we increase our year-over-year budget by 3.3%. We are currently sitting at a number that is 4.7%. The delta in real dollars is just under 600,000. We did have a meeting on February 13th, just the CPS, to talk about the budget. And then additionally, we had a meeting on the 15th, right before February break, with a joint meeting with the Finance Committee to sort of just to talk through the perspective of the administration, Bob and Lori, on the budget, and the perspective of the Finance Committee. Since then, the Finance Committee met last week. I was able to listen to some of their meeting. I think all of us were on at different points throughout that meeting. They kind of did what I'm going to ask us to do, is sort of to recap. They sort of recapped our joint meeting. And since that meeting, I know our group collectively has had some questions and points that need to be discussed or hope to be discussed. So I think we could use this time productively to kind of tackle those things. So I guess what I'd ask of our members is if anyone has questions or concerns or statements or thoughts that they wanted to bring out to this meeting today to discuss about specifically about the budget, I think this would be a great time to do that. So if anyone wants to kick that off, I'm all ears. Court.
Just question first. I may be
Sure.
confused. Is the FinCom guideline 3.3 or did it move to 3.6? Why is that
My
in
understanding is that it is 3.3.
3.3? Okay.
Yes, and actually, I think I got it incorrect in our joint meeting with them. I thought it was 3.4, and then I think it was Christine Reynolds maybe who
Okay.
corrected me and said it was 3.3. And although I did not listen to the entire, I didn't have the ability to listen to the entire finance committee meeting on Thursday, but I did not. My understanding was that they did not change the number in that meeting.
All
So
right.
as of our
Forgive me.
joint meeting, it was 3.3, and I was not made abreast of any changes.
Forgive me then. I don't want to
That's
confuse
okay.
things. Thank you. Okay.
Anyone want to confirm or confirm that?
Well, Bob's not debating it, so I think
Yeah.
we're okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we're at 3.3.
3.3.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Alexa, I wonder if we might start before we get into any details with the reductions list. The FinCom did speak to the reductions list and the fact that that got out in front of us, got out in front of the school committee the way it did. And I can't speak for any of you, but I just want to say that in my opinion, that is a list that was produced independent of us, and we haven't debated it, discussed it, haven't even agreed to debate it or discuss it. So I think it's premature for the community to get too focused on it, because again, I think the school committee should be bringing this material to the community with the superintendent. And we have not done so. I just want to make
Sure,
that
so I
point.
can give you a timeline of that. So in my capacity as chair, I talk with the finance committee chair, Ms. Briggs, and we had talked about the best ways in which to run this joint meeting. And she asked for a cut list. We could talk about this. So I expressed a lot of reluctance for a lot of the reasons that, you articulated just now, saying, sometimes when we put that list out, it can create a lot of panic in the teacher community and in the parent community. I said, we really, really, really don't like to do that unless it is really necessary. And she said very explicitly, I understand that, but it's necessary. So upon the conclusion of that conversation, so that I felt that she was articulating that the finance committee needed that list to do their work. So I requested it of the superintendent, and I made sure that our committee saw it in advance of the joint meeting with the finance committee. And that was really the best I could do. So I wanted to make sure that we all did have the opportunity to see it before it went to the finance committee, which we did.
In the future, I would hope that the school committee can have an opportunity to discuss what is presented in our name. And I don't think the FinCom has the authority to demand this of us in the future.
And because personally, and I know we as a committee are so concerned about our student and teacher mental health, to add stress and anxiety to their days, nights is not responsible. So I don't think we should do that in the future unless we discuss as a committee.
Well, the finance committee has their obligations. Their chair asked it of me. We have historically, at least in my time here, been very amenable to their requests and worked in partnership with them. And she asked for it, and And I felt it was my responsibility to continue to have a strong working relationship with them. And that's sort of where we went.
Well, and I guess that I would just say in terms of that list, I mean, the only way to get to guideline is to do those rejections. That's what we've been presented a few times. So I think this was like, how are we going to get to guideline? The way to get to guideline, this is the list. And I guess from my perspective, I'm not comfortable suggesting to the district how they should get to guideline. I mean, that is very much, beyond my pay grade there as to what those rejections should be. I mean, I do think that does come to us with the superintendent's recommendation. Those are the recommendations she brought to us as a committee. So I viewed it in that light, that we got them on that Monday, we looked at them, and we had an opportunity to discuss it on Monday, and there wasn't a lot of discussion in our meeting over that list. That was my recollection, at least.
All right. So any other questions, concerns moving forward?
I shared a few questions with the chair, with you, Alexa. I don't know what time you've had to share these with the administration.
New ones today, this afternoon.
I gave you some prior, and then more recently, I looked at the line item, the document entitled Final Budget that was given to us on.
So the ones that were asked
26th.
last week, I think you have answers to. The ones today that came in later this afternoon, I haven't had the opportunity to share. I haven't really had the opportunity much to look at them myself, but.
And I don't need to press on these tonight. We can take these up when people are prepared.
So my only questions are regarding the 5-year projections. The ones that were produced in the fall didn't have totals. So the year over year.
Totals for what, Cynthia? I'm sorry.
The 5-year projections,
Yeah.
there were not totals for the year over year, the total number. There wasn't a total at the bottom.
Okay.
So I think it's important for us to show to FinCom what the year over year is going to be.
Okay. Can you show me what document you're referring to? I'm sorry, I didn't. Bob, can you speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, we do have year-over-year increases. I don't know if this is the specific slide that shows growth by category. That one doesn't, because the intent of that is to show the growth within certain types of spending categories. But the summary one that shows the total budget does have year-over-year growth for the total CPS budget and the total region budget.
Okay, so maybe I'll see if I can find that, but I think they do want to see the categories. And so my question is, for the 25 through, what is it, 29 or 30?
Mm-hmm.
What COLA do we put in there?
We don't have a contract, so all we can do is put in a placeholder, and
What is-
usually we do that. We usually do that at some sort of level number, for lack of any other direction.
Right, but is it a 2.5? Is it 2.75?
I'd have to go look off the top of my head. I think what we did is we assumed a little bit over 3 that included a COLA plus steps and lanes. There's a lot of variable, like, are people going to retire or not? And you're going to have savings, you're going to have new hires. So, we have a base of a little bit above 3% for professional staff.
Want this on there or what? Want more?
Hey, Chris, you want to mute?
Well, you see what you eat first. If you want more, you can take it. You want
Hey,
any of this
Chris?
chicken? Yes, I made it. Do you want it on that plate? No.
Somebody mute
Oh,
her?
Zoom. Hey, Chris Tarlow, could you mute? Thanks.
I did it for her. Yeah.
Okay,
She's
great.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to have the totals at the bottom. That's what we did before. And if you could just explore what the COLA is you have in there.
So I guess I'm going to ask, to what point, just because we worked really closely with Parashar on the 5-year projection slides back in October. And I'm looking at them now. They're in the October 11th school committee meeting agenda links.
No, I understand, but there's not totals. And I'd like, before we would talk, we did the 5-year projections, we said we're putting a 2.5 or put 2.75 as the COLA. So that's a pretty big difference. 2.5, this year we have a 2.75, but we're almost at 4%. So I just want to be sure we're giving, what FinCom is trying to do is to say, look out for 5 years, the town, the schools, and see what the year-over-year increases are.
And I think one of my concerns since we started doing the 5-year projections is that we don't know, especially the farther out you get, the least reliable these are. And we've been very clear about those concerns. I mean, we're talking on a homeless shelter that came out of nowhere towards us. So we're just never sure. So I've always worried about the 5-year projections and the messages that we might inadvertently send as to thinking we know what our needs are, when the truth is we're never sure what our needs are and have to build that on an annual basis. And even then it changes. We had needs come up this morning that we're going to have to figure out how to meet. So I guess that's part of my concern on the 5 years. So we've been trying to, give them as much as we can for information, but beyond our best guess at a moment in time, that's really all they are once you get past the next fiscal year.
Okay, can I just though get some kind of an answer about the COLA? We have to put something in there to make that guess. It's either gonna be 2.5 or 2.75 or 2.2 or something.
Yeah, I'll go back and look at my assumptions. What I did is I didn't specifically put a COLA by itself. I did a COLA combined with steps and lanes, net of retirement. And it's a level service budget. So the percent increase for that category, I think it's shown right below CPA salaries. You can see the percent change year over year. So the percent change,
and we don't have contracts. So whatever we picked is not necessarily real. I guess that's my concern.
I think these discussions get circular pretty fast. The idea that we don't know results in people asking for best projections, and then best projection request is met with, well, we don't know. So we get circular so fast on this. I think we have to headline projections as merely that, projections. They're not going to be right any more than a budget is perfect. A budget is a plan. It's not a ironclad promise. If it was, we'd be hamstrung in all of our operations.
agreed. It is exactly, which this is our best projection based on what we know now. So we've listed 3% here, a piece of that steps and lanes, a piece is COLA. And again, it can change it, could go in either direction depending on what happens with on a lot of fronts.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're saying, Bob, that to answer Cynthia's question, you have 3% in there, but that is not just COLA, it's inclusive of steps and lanes, less
Net of retirements.
Projected
And that's
retirement.
3% from FY24 is 4%, but that includes the impact of additional FTEs. And FY25 through 28 is 3%. And this is CPF.
Okay.
But it's on the that shows the growth right below the dollars. There's percent increase for the teacher salaries category.
That helpful, Cynthia? I think you're muted.
I would like to know the COLA. I think it's important for us to be, if it's 2.5, then people are going to be like, okay, well, that might not hold with the new contracts. And that's not a secret. That's not talking out of school. But I think they're trying to plan, we're trying to plan as a town, right? With a lot of headwind, with a lot of debt going out, and we're trying to keep our tax bills reasonable. So if we keep going up 4.7 versus closer to 3, we're gonna start getting closer to that levy, and I don't want to get closer to the levy.
Yeah, I don't think this is a normal year, Cynthia. I think that people are perceiving that this 4.7 is setting a precedent. I'm not going to say what's going to happen with the homeless shelter. That's a variable that we didn't anticipate. But aside from that, we have a 14% increase in tuitions. We had additional positions we added. It's kind of an exceptional. It seems to me, it feels to me like there's a lot of factors making FY24 particularly challenging. And we'll certainly work our hardest to kind of manage the best we can it's not our, we want to deliver something that's kind of fits the balance. But right now, I think we're in a position where in order to meet student needs, we need to present the budget we've presented.
Oh, I understand that. It's just going forward, we're trying to maybe bring that number down closer to under 4.
Well, I guess, I kind of push back at, where we're trying to bring that number down to. I mean, I think we need to look at student needs first and foremost, and this is a level service budget. I think that, different towns do it different ways, right? Some towns will say you're going to get 3.5% every single year consistently. For the past 10 years, they've gotten 3.5%. That has not been the case here. And I do think that, there have been some years that we've gotten a little bit less, and this might be making up for, what's happened in the past. And it may be just an anomaly, it may be an unusual year, but we are talking about a level service budget, and that's what has been presented to us. So I understand that the finance committee wants us to be in the 3s, but a level service budget is not putting us in the 3s. And those are just the facts as they're just are out there. So, and I guess my question to Alexa, Lori, and Bob is, do we have any specific asks from FinCom at this point? Have they, written a memo with anything they're looking for before the hearing, or is there anything that they want to see from us before then?
Presentations that we need to prepare.
Yeah,
but
like no additional, go back and look at whatever, or I want to see this in your projection. Have they specifically sent any asks to us?
No, and I mean, I think one of the benefits of sort of how we structured things this year was putting all of us together in the room, inclusive of even Gail and Bob, was that we got really very, very specific parameters from Parashar, which I thought were really helpful. So it kept our focus, very specific and very narrow. I actually ended up speaking with Parashar today at 3 p.m. So no, there's nothing additional that they need for us. I think that we've delivered on that I don't know who said it, but we do have to prepare the slides for the hearing. That is not yet complete, but apart from that, there's no additional information being requested at this time. If I might, I guess I'm the chair, I'm asking you, I'm acting like we're back at the region. The only thing that I would notice, Cynthia, you keep saying we are hoping to get things under 4%. And, my perspective as a school committee member is we, regardless of what the per number is, we should be making sure that we are presenting a budget and a plan that first and foremost captures and addresses the students' needs. That's sort of my goal. And then of course, ensuring that we do that with, I think what the MASC says is a duty of care to the taxpayer, making sure that you're not doing, that meeting the students' needs don't adversely harm any of our taxpayers. So for me, the first, the collective we should be ensuring that the budget is, at minimum level service, which this seems to be, and that it is a budget that is addressing the needs of our students, both academically and from a wellness perspective. So I'm not sure. I just want to make sure that when you say, we, I didn't know exactly who you were talking about, but so yeah, I mean, I want to make sure that we continue our dialogue with the FinCom. And that I'm hoping that we have a further dialogue with them on the 9th, 8th, 9th, I forget which it is, at the hearing. And that's sort of my perspective on where we are right now. We had good dialogue, I thought the meeting that we had with them last week, the week before break, was excellent. Hearing their perspectives on everything, to me was very informative, and I think they got the same from us. So as long as we continue with that, I think that's sort of where I am. Does anyone else have questions? Carrie, Court, Cynthia, Tracy.
Well, perhaps you could forward my questions to the administration, Alexa.
The ones from today, this
Yes,
afternoon?
please. Yes, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I just
Thank
haven't
you.
had time.
Bob, I think this one would go to you. We have cherry sheet information, which I know takes some time to get into, but is there anything relevant there for tonight?
We're under, the CPS is fairly close in chapter 70. That's not our revenue, it's the town's. The region is, we forecasted, we budgeted an increase of 50,000. The increase was closer to 40,000, so we're $10,000 short. Although we think we'll make it up in transportation. Don't look at the cherry sheet for transportation. Their projections aren't going to be accurate. We received more than they projected last year. And it's based on our actuals. It's not something that they set themselves. It's based on our end of year report. So we'll have a better idea of that than they will. So we're hopeful that the regional transportation will offset, we'll have some favorability there to offset the chapter 70 being 10K short.
At the region.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So those are the big ones. There's some smaller line items there, but
And can you remind us what happened with the town cherry sheet? Because that's will be considered something we put against the school related items in the municipal budget. Did that get better than projection, or where did that land?
no, it was flat. That one,
Okay.
yeah, it was flat.
Thank you.
We are getting closer to the hold harmless limit. So we're not quite there yet, but at some point with the Student Opportunity Act, as we get closer to being out of the hold harmless limit, we could potentially see a spike. But until we get past that, we'll get minimum aid. So there's still a little bit of a gap. That's something I'll look at, when there's more time, kind of going into next year with the town CFO, just to see if that's something we can maybe factor into budget planning next year.
Got it. Thank you.
All right. Oh, Carrie.
I just wanted to reflect on the meeting with FinCom a couple of weeks ago. I thought that it was an incredibly interesting conversation and very detailed. Like first to the administration's incredible work to pull together all of that data to present. I thought it was really helpful to inform both FinCom and the broader community of all of the data that goes into how the administration thinks about writing this zero-based budget. And I think where it ended, one of my biggest takeaways from the conversation was that we keep coming to this place where that we're at odds with our budget, their guidelines, and where do we go from here? Because everybody wants to have good schools. Nobody wants to have high taxpayers, have high taxes. Everybody is in the same place there. It's just how do we get there? And one of the things that I keep thinking back to, which is not in our purview, but I think is a really important conversation that we should have as a community, is this idea that it's not just about raising taxes. We have to be looking at like business revenue, and other ways in which we can create additional revenue streams for our town. And I just don't think that we should be looking to, yes, there are always things that we have to be looking at the budget and looking at ways that we can streamline things and look for efficiencies. Like that's our job. That's the administration job. I think Dr. Hunter has historically been really creative with how she has both written budgets and also looked for those efficiencies and ways to save money, and to do a lot, an incredible amount, with perhaps not, all of the resources. And so after all of these questions that we've all had, I know we've all submitted questions to Alexa and to Tracy, and we've gotten a number of answers. Court, I know you're waiting on some. My feeling is that, we have to look at this budget as a school committee from two lenses. One, primarily as the school committee, is in how it will impact the students, and two, secondary is how it impacts taxpayers. My feeling is that this is a level service budget at a time when we have extreme needs, from mental health to special education to utilities to COVID fallout, and that we have to be thinking from a bigger picture of how we solve the budgetary question. And we play a part in that, and making sure that we're looking for efficiencies, but that the answer isn't just to continue to cut things that are important for our students. So I think that's where I stand. And I'm all open to that, being a part of that conversation as a community member, not just as a school committee member.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I guess too, it comes back to sort of from my perspective, I get nervous when Bob and Lori and Kristen come and say from each of their different perspectives that this is truly a level service budget. I just, I don't, given, like, to your point, Carrie, that I think it's an accomplishment, I guess, is what I'm saying, that we are able to find a way to deliver level service and at a time of such acute need. And, I just, I trust their expertise that this is in fact level service. They've been able to, despite the fact that we've got, most of our budget is contractual increases. It seems to me that we're very lean everywhere else. So lean, in fact, that I don't know that there's much room to give. So I do think, again, the hearing will be an important piece of that. Because like you said, there's some talking and whatnot still to be done between us and the finance committee. Lori, by the way, are you back and able to hear us? The superintendent was having technical difficulties. I don't know. I can see you, I think, Lori, that you?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear us? No, maybe she can't.
You're
I
muted.
don't think she can.
She can. She's nodding.
Okay, she can.
Can you
Okay,
hear
great.
me now?
Yes,
Oh, I don't
Okay.
miss these days. How about you?
that's okay.
Yeah.
So if anyone else has any parting thoughts, so my to-dos are to get some additional questions that Court had for that came in this afternoon to the admin. Tracy, are you working on providing the list of aggregated questions so that we can get them out to the whole committee?
Yes, I will. I'll put that together because I do think it's important for the whole committee to see all of the questions that came in and the responses. And if there is any clarity that anyone needs from the questions, now would be the time. certainly did my best to answer what I could. I did run it by the superintendent, so she has seen the questions and she's weighed in on it. So if there's anything that wasn't answered, certainly now would be a good time to do
Well,
that.
I would welcome when you forward information from me to our finance director, just as I like to hear from our chairs, if it came instead of from Lori to Bob to chair to me, if it went straight to all of us, that'd be great. Without as many intermediaries, I'd probably understand more quickly than I do with the sort of telephone game that we're doing.
Well, it's really just going from the questions to the chair and back. I mean, I haven't seen all of the questions yet, because I think you have to forward some to me, Alexa, if I put that together. But I
Yeah, I
do,
haven't forwarded anything this afternoon.
okay.
No,
But I do,
I'll be more direct.
Yeah.
If Bob and Lori care to reply directly to us vis-a-vis some of the budget questions, I would certainly welcome that.
and I guess, just one comment that I did have about the questions, there is an extraordinary number of questions that I would be remiss if I didn't say that. And some of the questions, I'm feeling a little bit like we're getting into the 100 level versus 1,000 level. And I just want to be aware of that, as we did our budget workshop. I heard a million times from Tracy Novak, like school committee stays at the 1,000 level. So I just think that we need to I would just give that reminder to everyone, myself included. Like, I know we all want to get into this, but our responsibility is really to stay at the 1,000 level. And I do think that, I think that Bob and Lori have put together a solid budget for us. I think that it is lean, and that is my opinion of it. So I just think we need to be cognizant of the amount of work that they have done on this budget so far, and they continue to work on it. And so if there's anything else, any other questions that are coming in, I would just, my plea is to just let's stay at the 1,000 level for all of us. I think would be helpful.
I would certainly echo your sentiment that everybody's doing a lot of work here. I do believe that Tracy referred to the 1,000 level as the cost center level for a school committee being apprised of transfers for purposes of approvals. Personally, I believe that building a budget, especially a zero-based budget, doesn't mean that things are automatically off limits for a school committee. That doesn't mean, Tracy, that we should fuss with insignificant, silly things, but I don't think anything's automatically denied us when we build a budget. That's different than looking at transfers, which was the subject of the budget workshop with MASC.
Yeah, Tracy, definitely send around just forward the email you sent me. That'd be helpful. Is that?
Okay. Yep. We'll put it all together.
Yep.
All right. Well, I appreciate.
Alexa, just one
Yep.
final question
Sure.
regarding the presentation at the Finance Committee hearing regarding the fields. We've never really seen a presentation. Is it going to be just very brief?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know what Lori and Bob, I don't think they've put together anything yet. I think they're still working on that. And again, with respect to what?
It's coming from us. So that's the thing. It's unfortunate we won't see it beforehand.
I think we'll be able to see it before the hearing. Not into obviously today's meeting, but and again, I'll remind everybody that what did Court say? Guardedly optimistic. This is a warrant article that will not be pursued unless bids come in over 87 million. The fields and the landscaping, which are outlined in the warrant article, are very much a part of the bid package. So provided that if they're not being excluded from the bid package, and moreover, I think the only thing on the off to talk list that I do remember is the fields are number 4. So they won't, it is likely that they would even be deducted if the bids went over, because there are 3 items that would be deducted before them. I know there are the bleachers, maybe some wood look ceilings,
Maybe some
maybe outdoor
look.
classrooms. I don't remember the
Yeah.
order. I do know that the big number, which is the 1.8 million for the fields, are number 4 on that list. So a lot of different things would have to come together for us even to consider advancing that warrant article at town meeting. Number 1, the bids would have to come in excess of 87 million. Number 2, the bids would have to come in not only in excess of 87 million, but in excess of the first 3 items on the alt deduct list for us even to consider that. So I think those are all good things, and I am very cautiously optimistic. More optimistic.
Alexa, I'll get into the weeds for a second here and just note for our colleagues that legally, if we come in over, we take all of item number 1.
Correct.
And then if we're still over, we take all of item number 2. We can't a la carte anything here. It's legally, it comes right off the list.
All right. Anything else, Cynthia? I think she's muted. All right, so we have one action item on our agenda, which is to approve a Concord Ed Fund donation for, I believe it's the pilot of our responsive classroom. And if any, I would entertain a motion to approve that donation. Should I get one on the floor?
I'll be happy to do that. Carrie, okay?
Go for it.
All right, I move that the Concord School Committee votes to accept a donation from the Concord Education Fund for responsive classroom, the elementary social emotional approach, in the amount of $60,000.
It's really
A
generous.
second.
All right, and we will roll call this vote.
I
Oh,
wonder if
first,
we
is there
could-
any discussion? Apologies.
I wonder if we could hear from the superintendent vis-a-vis the future obligations as we build this in, should it be successful. Maybe a word or two about the vendor and the process. And then third and most importantly, I think we owe a huge debt of gratitude, not only to the Concord Ed Fund, but all the citizens that year in and year out raise money for the Concord Ed Fund. I know I speak for all of us there.
I actually am going to ask Kristen if she'll speak to it because she's been the
Sure.
hands-on with all of it.
Yeah, so we were alerted 2 or 3 years ago that the social emotional curriculum that we used at the elementary school called Open Circle was gonna shut down. We have been well served by it for over 30 years. We are actually one of the pilot test sites. So we knew we had some time to find an appropriate replacement. So we had last school year, 27-member committee made up of administrators, guidance counselors, elementary teachers, and so forth. Andrew, our DIB director, was on it. I was on it, obviously led it. And we vetted over 20 programs to replace Open Circle, including trying to draft one of our own and riff off of the Open Circle curriculum. But we found that with the pandemic and students being at home, they didn't have enough of an opportunity to develop the 5 areas of skills that they needed. And so we really needed a pretty vetted, tested, evidence-based curriculum. So we looked at 20 as a committee. We voted on 5 of them. We narrowed it down with more voting from all the teachers at the elementary level. And this year we are doing a pilot of responsive classroom, which is an approach, along with Fly 5, which is their curriculum in which kids develop skills. And there's a number of pillars of it, but you will all recognize the morning meeting as like a community building exercise. And you can weave academics in there. So we chose responsive classroom this year. We have over 50 of our elementary teachers piloting it. It's going really well. We've taken data at 3 points so far, and we will continue to do so. So normally with something like this, we would have a rolling training program over 5 years, but the need was so intense that we applied to the CEF so that we could get all our teachers trained and start next school year, all trained up, all responsive classroom, ready to roll. And so they had us in for an evening and we talked a lot about it and even did some activities from it. And we are so, so grateful that they responded to our needs. So the 60,000 is 25,000 for training in Concord, 30 of our teachers. Then the rest of the money is for sending teachers who can't make that last week in June to trainings in July and August. So, and then a few follow-up teachers might go during the school year next year, but we're trying to do the bulk this summer. So that's how the money's going to be spent. It's training the teachers up this summer and getting them all the materials that they need.
Two other follow-on, if I may, Kristen. One, is this something that follows the castle model, sort of? Is that?
Yep, it's the 5
backbone?
areas of skills. Yep, self-awareness, and then self-regulation, social awareness, and then how do you interact with your peers? And then the last area is decision-making.
So this is a cost for a training to enable our teachers to move this into the classrooms. Do we then follow up with additional obligations for some kind of subscriptions or coaching or mentoring or hard materials, or where does this all go?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So we're building in a trainer of trainer models. So each of the schools written into this grant is each of the schools identify 2 teachers to get not just the basic level training, but go through the advanced training. And so they are the trainers in their school that keep this going, that bring new people to the school up to speed and keep giving ideas for activities, guide how we're going to do things by grade level and so forth. So it's really these school-based teacher leaders that are going to lead this work past this school year.
And does this roll into then our extracurricular side of contracts so that there's no need for school committee to be involved at that level?
Right. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Thanks, Court. Good questions. Anyone have any other discussion? All right.
I have to echo the thanks to the Ed Fund. I'm sorry, because $60,000 in a tight budget year. Thank you to the Ed Fund, because it really serves all of our K-5 kids really well. So thank you for all of that.
Kristen, are any of our peer communities using this one? Is there any synergy or alliances out there for us to help?
Oh,
us?
yeah. And we were able to visit other schools that were using it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great. Oh, good. Good to hear. Thank you.
All right. With that, I will start our roll call. Anderson, aye.
Booth, aye.
Morano, aye.
Rainy eye.
Rankin, I.
All right, you guys. That was our one action item for the evening. So with that, I thank you all for your time this evening, and we'll make a motion to, well, no, I will just adjourn. All right, we will see you guys, I don't know, a lot. A lot. So see you often and see you soon.
All right.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.